Our next award for a legend of Off Broadway, I bet you could guess who it is. But I want to tell you a little something about it. At the tender age of 14, our honoree was living with his family on Normal Street in the sleepy town of Normal, Indiana. One fateful day, he saw Judy Garland in a local moving house in A Star Is Born and started on his path to become a legend. Somehow, this remarkable young man got Miss Garland on the telephone and got her to endorse his plan to form the first ever official Judy Garland fan club, which soon had 3,000 members. I'm not making that up. 14, he knew. So that was just the beginning. Albert Poland went on to be everywhere in the history of New York theater, working with everyone from Ellen Stewart to Lucille Lortel, from Al Carmines and Sam Shepard to Jerry Schoenfeld and Bertie Jacobs. He produced and generally managed some of the longest running and best loved hits in the history of Off-Broadway, including the first Gretchen Cryer, Nancy Ford musical, 1967's Now Is the Time for All Good Men, Charles Bush's The Lady in Question, Steve Martin's Picasso with the Lapin Agile, Robert Harling's Steel Magnolias, and of course, the original production of Howard Ashman and Alan Menken's Little Shop of Horrors. Right? And lesser known, but still significant, Futz from 1968, which has the distinction, does anyone remember it or no? It has the distinction of being the first known instance of an on-stage orgy in the history of the American theater. No puppets, but still. A landmark. Everyone you can think of in the world of Off-Broadway has worked with or for Albert Poland, and many of them will tell you that he was always there for them, that he made the impossible happen, and taught them everything they know. There just isn't enough time to tell all the wonderful lore that Mr. Poland has to tell us about the theater, but luckily we don't have to, because Stages, his memoir of his life in the theater, is coming out this fall. Yeah, okay. We would have brought it, but we don't have a big publication copy. So please help me welcome the legend of Off-Broadway honoree, the boy from Normal, the extraordinary Albert Poland.
Thanks so much. Hi, George. My off-Broadway career sort of started in this room. David Cryer, my producing partner, and I gave our first bachelor's audition for a show called Now Is the Time for All Good Men.
Yeah.
Room. Thank you. It was a very memorable night, obviously. It was 52 years ago this month. Tom Jones and Harvey Schmidt were here. They invested. Lucille Lortel was here. She gave us her theater. And we went into rehearsal in the fall. And if I may, I'd like to read you an excerpt from my book about the magic moment when I really connected with Off-Broadway. It happened to be during the first equity negotiation that I attended. Paul Berkowski, our general manager, opened wide the door of Off-Broadway. In early September, negotiations began for the new Off-Broadway contract between Actors Equity and the League of Off-Broadway Theaters and Producers. Paul brought me into them and urged me to participate. I immediately loved everyone on both sides. The league members were sleeves rolled up, emotionally invested, knowledgeable, and characters. Producer and general manager Lily Turner was a kind of Bronx dowager who had started the first off-Broadway theater company in 1947. Her opening salvo was to me was to stand behind the chair I was sitting in and say, "Move." I rejoined, I was the only one at the table. Yes, I want that chair. I'm a lady. I was intimidated, so I moved. But I was also pissed, so I sat in the chair next to her. She was amused. The relationship went on like that for decades. Dorothy Olam was a tall, imposing woman and the top Off-Broadway general manager. McBird, America Hurrah, and Fortune and Men's Eyes were her current running shows. She was the voice of experience, and when she cocked her jaw to one side and started, everybody listened. William Hunt was a director and producer, not particularly successful, but a necessary part of the mix. He was notable for having directed Lanford Wilson's first double bill, Ludlow Fair and the Madness of Lady Bright, which ran for 15 performances in 1966. At a certain point in the negotiations, he could be counted on to nail Off-Broadway to the cross in what he hoped would provide a dramatic turn of events for our fortunes. Being actors, the members of the opposing team had their own flair for drama, but Bill more than matched it. Toward the end of the negotiations, a man with unkempt hair in a black leather jacket appeared. All of these people were Rough Riders, but he seemed to be the roughest of them all. He operated Shakespeare in the Park, and his influence and importance were immediately apparent. He was the young Joe Papp. Heading up the league side was Paul Libin, Ted Mann's partner in Circle in the Square. He was and is the best negotiator in the New York theater. Watching him was a joy. He involved all of us in the process, but things were clearly in his hands. He bullied, cajoled, and caressed, always with humor and always with a total working knowledge of Off-Broadway at his fingertips. After 4 weeks of intense negotiation, the weekly Off-Broadway minimum went from $65 to $70, subject to a sliding scale, capping out at $145 when the weekly box office gross reached $9,500. As for me, I had found a home. These were my people. This was my community. Off-Broadway had claimed my heart and owned it for several decades.